Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 1MC. Glad to have everybody here today. Looking forward to a fantastic presentation today. We have Phil Everhart with SmartFox Technology. So I'm so glad that you could join us to come and support local entrepreneurs and small businesses in our community. So without further ado, Phil, I'm going to give it to you. It's all yours.
Thank you so much. What an honor to speak to you guys today. My name is Phil Everhart. I'm the president and founder of a company called SmartFox Technologies. This is my sixth 1 million cup presentation. I really support 1 million cups and such an honor to speak to the Fayetteville chapter of 1 million cups. Thus far, I've spoken to RTP, Charlotte, Atlanta, twice to Wilmington, and now to you guys. So thank you so much for reaching out to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, Lori, and I look forward to talking to everybody. Thank you. 1 second. Share. All right. All right, can I get a heads up? You can see it all right, Lori? Excellent. All right, good to hear. All right, so my name is Phil Everhart, as I mentioned, and I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. I've been here for a long time, fortunate to live here, a resident of North Carolina. Been here for most of my life in Wilmington since college, coming to college here. And I've been in the technology field for a long time in different leadership capacities, working with systems like Salesforce CRM, which I'm not sure if you're aware of, but most of you probably are. Salesforce is the world's largest CRM system in the United States and across the world. They have about approximately 180,000 customers across the world. So I'm going to talk to you today about our technology and how we partnered with Salesforce to create it using something called Control AI. So SmartFox Technologies built the first ever business forecast management system called SmartFox Prime. And our system's purpose is to help companies forecast sales accurately using AI and taking an objective approach, milestone based, to doing forecasts. So I'm going to talk to you about that today. Let me go to my next slide. All right, so the agenda for me today is just to give you an overview of SmartFox Technologies, the problem that we solve, the reason why that problem exists, and the solution to that problem. I want to talk to you about what we've achieved thus far. We've been live in the market since last October, and so we'll talk a little bit about that and what that means, and then what comes next for us. There's a lot of opportunity for us. There's a lot that we've achieved this year, even though dealing with COVID, as we all have. The future looks bright for SmartFox Technologies, and we'll discuss that. And then our ask at the end will be very simple. So to start off with, according to Wall Street analysts, accurate sales forecasting is the #1 indicator of business being successful. It's what companies use to predict how they're going to pay their employees, how they're going to build new products, how they're going to seek investors. The list goes on. But the problem with that issue is that most sales forecasts are inaccurate. And the reason why they're inaccurate is because of this study that was done by a company called Inside Sales Labs. They did a study on 270,000 plus closed won opportunities. That's opportunities that had been won by a company in their CRM systems, making up about 18.1 billion in closed sales revenue from many companies involved. And what they found out is that 72% of the time outside of 90 days, the forecasts were wrong. And then 47% of the time within 90 days, the forecasts were wrong. So this shows that there's a huge issue with the way companies are forecasting their sales and how they're predicting future outcomes. So the reason why this problem exists is for this person here, the sales rep. Sales reps forecast based off their own subjective guesses and their own emotions. And sometimes people feel a different way on how they want to forecast every single day, depending on how that day goes, right? So, and sales reps are all built different from in design. Like as people, we're built different in design. Some people are the sharks. Some people are just the weaker ones that you have to coach up. It's just the way people are built to sell. And the other problem is that sales reps don't want to enter information at the end of the day in their CRM system. And what that problem causes is that only 40% of the total activity a sales rep performs gets put in these systems. So it's hard to use that data if only 40% gets put in. And the outcome of all this causes this problem. And I felt this pain. And if you've been a sales manager or sales director, you certainly felt this pain. As a result of it, sales managers then spend up to 50% of their time just fixing inaccurate sales forecasts and poor opportunity management that these sales reps put into CRM systems. So SmartFox Technologies, the first ever business forecast management system, came from me for years using spreadsheets to take an objective approach to how I was calculating forecasts so my board members would believe in those and have confidence in those. So we built a very simple application that can be downloaded into Salesforce from Salesforce App Exchange, which is their shopping cart, that allows us to nudge sales reps to success. And what I mean by nudging is it's all the behavior economics of pushing people to be successful and making smart choices. Sorry, let me get the next one. We're using something called controlled artificial intelligence. It's different from artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is the outcome of what people put into a system, and it gives you reports and data from that, right? So our system's different. We allow the admin and sales leadership team to control what people actually select and the milestones they accomplish in each stage of the sales cycle. So then we can learn and make corrections on the front end of how those milestones are correct or not correct. So that's how we fix inaccurate forecasting, because we're constantly learning and constantly fixing the problem of forecasting. We also do a great thing by removing subjectivity. Like there's no more guessing. We're just asking the sales reps now to weigh in on what we've configured and check off the milestones that the company's asked. So that puts everybody on one platform, one cadence, all consistent with how they're forecasting, no more subjectivity involved. So we solve that problem based off of past success and learning from future success. So here's a screen showing you the end user screen of the product. Basically, someone would download our product into their Salesforce platform. I'll show you how it's integrated here in a second. And they would be able to use this. And this just shows an example of the prospecting stage and how someone's going through and answering the actual questions that the company's asked them to actually complete during this stage of the sales cycle. As these questions get completed, the probability of the success gets calculated to the right based off of what the management team has configured. This shows the admin screen. This is where someone would configure the system. It's real simple to do. It takes about 30 minutes to actually set up the product. And this is the main feature of the product called Milestones to Move, where people actually check off things, but there's more features in the product that are available as well. This is showing the integration. If you've ever seen Salesforce to the left, that would show what Salesforce would look like and the integration involved and how the dashboard would look. So you don't have to go into every single opportunity, actually see what the calculations are being made. This shows the dashboards that actually show what the outcome is, what the actual reports are, so we can make some key decisions from a management team, how to fix the front end, and maybe we're not asking the right questions or not having the right probability. We can learn from these actual calculations. Great news for us and where we are and where we're going is that now colleges, this is an example of a university in Milwaukee who's actually requires their student at the Radar Business School to actually learn how to use Salesforce before they enter the workforce, and learn how to use our product, which teaches them how to use AI to help them forecast. We're rolling this out into this university and then 12 additional universities in Wisconsin. This would be a game changer for our company if we could roll this out across the United States to help prepare these kids who will all at some point use a CRM system. Fortunate for us, we've won 15 national and international awards in 2021. These awards are such an honor. One local award was Coastal Entrepreneur of the Year. Also, we've won US FinTech for the Startup of the Year, and many others that I've just been honored and blessed to be a part of to win these awards. That shows credibility to our company and what we're trying to accomplish to help these other companies. Salesforce states that they believe that the adoption and top growth area of sales teams will be AI over the next 3 years, and the rate that it'll grow is over 139%. So we're positioned well with them as the AI to correct business forecasts. This is how fast Salesforce is growing. They predict that that number's gone up a lot. They're up to 180,000 customers now, but they plan to double in size in the next 4 years, which will help us. We plan to grow with them. So this is kind of an overview of SmartFox Technologies and what the technology we have and what we're trying to accomplish and how we're trying to help organizations solve this massive problem that helps save people's jobs, helps companies grow. And so I just want to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to speak. I went over a little bit today because I knew Lori said I could, but I look forward to speaking to you guys about our technology. And my ask today is just to spread the wealth of SmartFox. We're here to help companies grow. We're very affordable. I think we're priced at $29 per month per user, which is very affordable in the CRM industry for pricing. And so we're here to help Fayetteville people that use Salesforce and also the universities. I'm so proud that the Fayetteville Tech is a part of this conversation because we're trying to reach out these universities and donate our technology to get these kids prepared for the future. So Lori, I want to end that there and stop sharing my screen, but thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. All right.
Well, thank you so much, Phil. Really appreciate it. I do have a couple of questions myself. So your ideal market is it small business, larger industry? Who is your ideal target market?
So usually the organizations that have a longer term sales process where there's things and milestones that need to be completed before you reach certain things. So we're really attracted to the fintech, financial, healthcare, technology industries because they have to go through a process that complete their sales. The second answer to your question is usually the companies that are a little bit larger, that have the larger sales teams, that where you start to lose the consistency and cadence of forecasting is really where the problem exists. So we're talking even to companies like IBM, Verizon, and they're considering implementing our system into certain areas of their platform where they really are having issues with that type of complaint. So that's kind of where we are as it relates to our product market area and where we feel like we're strong. So usually companies that have about 100 or plus employees would want to use our product, but the smaller companies just don't have to use it yet.
And so who's your competition? Do you have any?
Yeah, so some people view what they call Einstein Analytics. That's what Salesforce promotes as their AI. But we work with Einstein Analytics because our data can be put into Salesforce. It's built on Salesforce platform, and then they can extract that and use it in Einstein Analytics. So we're not a competitor of theirs. There's another company called Clary out there. They use a product outside of Salesforce, and they basically take the information from Salesforce and actually then produce AI. But the problem with that is they don't fix the problem that we're fixing, where the 40% activity is the reason why this AI is bad. We're basically fixing that because we're not requiring the sales rep to no longer have to do so much work. We're just asking them to check off the boxes, and then we'll produce the AI, and that allows us to nudge them to actually complete the task that we need to get the data and make good guesses, right? So that's why we're doing it the way we are.
Phil, I appreciate that you are reducing the amount of work for the sales team because then they can focus more on sales. I like how you do the dashboard and the analytics so that we can see where we're trending as opposed. here's my question back to you. I think one of the things that you said was wrong originally is because you're relying on people to enter information. After a while, they stop entering information.
Right.
So I get all that you can help me with, so I'm not as bogged down by as much detail, but aren't you, since it's still controlled AI, aren't you still depending on me as a salesperson to enter certain information? And if you are, how are you going to encourage me so I don't have that same philosophy of, oh, I'm not going to do that, or I don't have time for that?
Good question. That goes back to two things. So nudging is such a huge thing in our society today. We don't see it as much as it's out there. We don't realize it, but Facebook is watching us and everybody's trying to help us make decisions. And it's kind of scary, right? But if I can socially recognize sales reps where they are amongst other peers and they're seeing how they're doing and everybody now sees how they're doing, it kind of makes them want to do the work, right? Because they don't want to be not recognized for doing. And then you have the shark, the main guy or the main woman who wants to be recognized the most. And they are all competing to be recognized. So we can socially recognize them and we can do things like trigger points. And what that means is like, if a sales rep reaches a threshold, let's say that so-and-so sales rep reaches 80% of what we want them to accomplish, we can trigger an automatic email from the CEO that says, keep up the good work. We're very proud of you. We want you in our company. And people are drawn by that. They love that recognition. And being able to do things like that where they're just done automatically is an amazing thing. So that's how we can get people to do the work we wanted them to do, by recognizing them socially, by nudging them and controlling their behavioral things. The last point I'd like to bring out, which is very important to what you just said, is that you still can't remove the sales rep's opinion. They have to weigh in. So in our technology, what we do is we create the calculations and then we ask them, do you feel these calculations are where they need to be? And they give a rating. They say, yes, no, maybe. And from that, we can build another forecast layer that helps us see if our calculations are correct or not correct. So that allows us to give them the chance to weigh in, nudge them to success, and then make calculations that the company knows that have repeated success in the past. So it's a beautiful thing once you can put all three of those things together, because the odds of success are so high. So that's why I love your question, because it really brings in the human element of forecasting to make sure we don't lose that.
Well, let me follow up on that, since you mentioned the human factor here. I like the nudging because, we started doing it here with our students, and we found we have better response with nudging than just sending them an email,
Yeah.
It was amazing, the response rate we were getting. But I know that what you're going after, the touch where, you get the 80% and you get the email from the CEO, congratulations. Everybody likes a pat on the back. I don't know anybody who doesn't like a pat on the back. How do you keep that from being artificial, though, that it doesn't come across as canned?
Yeah. So that's just one example. The sales managers still have to be involved, right? The leaders of the company still have to have that interaction level with the sales rep, but we're reducing what's required now. Like we don't have to babysit or spend all that time reaching out to the sales rep, making sure, because they now know that we see what they're doing. So, but the output is still going to be emotionally tied to the sales manager making sure their team performs. We're just trying to increase the odds of success by using good data and good points to help the sales managers make good decisions with their teams and how successful they are. So you're still going to have the human element of a leadership team reaching out, ensuring success, but it may not be as hard anymore. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish. So you can't remove, I always talk to people, they're like, I watched this talk for Mark Cuban said, don't bring me anything about AI unless you know what you're talking about. And he's right, because so many people are so scared of it. But it has to be organized, managed. There has to be some rules to it, and it has to be for the good. And I talk about that so much with people, because if it's not for the good, then why are people going to want to use it, right? So that's where AI is just going to be so huge. And the companies that don't use it for the good, they're going to be weeded out, because there's going to be so much regulation that's about to happen. I mean, it's amazing some of the things that I see that's about to happen as it relates to AI and how that's used in our world. So I think that this all is going to play out really well for everybody if you have a product that helps people and organizations for the good, and it helps people make decisions, but still allows them to speak in. So that's a long answer to you, but I love that topic. So thank you for that question.
Well, the other part you have to be careful about is not bombarding people. Nudging's one thing, but if it gets to be annoying, you actually can turn people the opposite direction.
You're right. You're so right. You have to be careful how you do things, and you learn. You got to learn from failure. So you got to learn how to use it right, and make sure that, and learn from others who are using AI. I mean, what's going to happen is this, and it's really going to see it come. All these big companies like IBM, I mentioned earlier, all of them out there, Oracle, are really promoting their AI tools, and even Salesforce. And what's going to happen is that the other industries, this medium, smaller guy who are just kind of thinking about using it, they're going to say, oh, it's working for them. Maybe I should try it as well. And this whole trickle effect is going to be what happens over the next several years. And I believe that. I just feel like it's going to happen, and people are going to be able to absorb AI and try to use it for the good for their companies, especially the problem that we're solving. And the healthcare industry is so big in AI right now. I have some friends who have similar companies, and I'm so excited to see what happens with that for helping save people's lives, because I'm all about that. So it's going to change, and we're going to have to adapt to it, because it's common and there's nothing we can do about it. We're just going to have to make sure that we manage it, and there's rules behind it.
But if I heard you correctly, you cannot use your product outside of Salesforce. Is that right?
Yeah, we did that tactically. So Salesforce has something called Salesforce Ventures, and they wait for companies like me to build products on their platform, and then they watch them to see how successful. And they either buy our company for a large amount, or we exit and build our product into other areas, other platforms, because these other platforms also have integration points where we can build it. So we've protected our company to ensure we get that opportunity. And so Salesforce will have a decision if we want to do that or not. And so that'll be a part of what our investors decide when we get that opportunity, and we're planning for that already. So yeah, we're only in Salesforce. We did that strategically for that reason. Great questions. Thank you. Does anybody else have a question?
Well, I'll jump back in. So what size Salesforce do you feel that you kind of need to really take advantage of your product? Is it like a minimum number of people, a minimum amount of sales, transactions, to where I'm really going to benefit from subscribing to your service?
Yeah, so you're going to benefit from subscribing to our service in two areas. If you're a larger organization where you're starting to, you don't have a methodology, there's so much inconsistency. I presented the numbers that I presented earlier for inside sales list to IBM, and they said our numbers are way worse than that. And so when you're having issues like that, and you're in an organization of that size, that's where it's really going to benefit. The next type of organization that really benefits from us is an organization is just starting to figure out their sales process, and they're trying to figure out how to make calculations on that. So I'll have these presentations where some startups or people like me will come and say, we don't know what our sales process is yet. And I always say, do you know your competitor, how they've been successful? Do you know who they are and how they've been successful? Or repeat that and then add your own twist to that, right? learn from that. And that's how you build your SmartFox Prime system and Salesforce sales process based on that. So sometimes companies that even are smaller, even though they're not our target, come to us because they're trying to create their sales process and be able to provide forecasting to it, especially if they have investors involved. So that's where we see the most companies that come to us are in those two areas, amongst the verticals that I mentioned earlier that have a longer term sales process, at least 6 months in that area. So not to say that somebody can't use our product, which has a more of a consumer based buying cycle, but it's works the best for companies who have a longer term sales process.
Hey, Phil. Hey, great presentation so far. You got me excited. Tell me something. More and more companies are doing something as we come out of COVID. They've learned lessons learned from COVID, and they're engaged in rebranding their sales team and their marketing strategies. How do you assist companies that are looking to do that?
Okay, so here's the thing that I always talk about with that. I love that. Two things. Companies come to me and I'll give a presentation. They're like, well, how do we predict future when we're going through COVID right now? How can you forecast with COVID? Like I said, well, you know, the delays of products, and maybe you build something like a high-end grill or something high-end that it just, everything's delayed. So you know how to give yourself time to actually get your product out there, okay? So rebranding and brand yourself is a big part of it. And one of the things that in our product that I suggest people using are two things. We have something called best practices.
Yeah.
So if you're rebuilding your brand, and we have a thing called best practices where we teach our sales teams how to actually do certain things when we're trying to brand ourselves a little bit different. So you can build those different checklists for them, and actually they go through and they learn in each stage of the sales process what the new branding kind of conditions are and what we expected them to accomplish. They're not milestones that I spoke about earlier that actually calculate forecasts. They're just best practices that the company wants them to do to accomplish the rebranding and the new brand of the company. The last piece of that question is we have something called customer tracker. This is huge because if you're not teaching your customers how to buy your brand and how they should be buying a brand of a product, then you're not going to be this person that's the head of the sales line. You're not the one that they're probably looking at to buy. So what we have is something called customer tracker. And what it does, it teaches the sales team what the customer experiences buying your brand in each stage of the sales cycle. So they know what a customer goes through in their head of evaluating other vendors and so forth. So we can teach them and say, here's what they're experiencing, here's what you need to walk them through and present to them to check off of what needs to happen. That goes along with rebranding, all right? That goes along with bringing your brand out and ensuring they understand why your brand is the best. So our product's not just a forecasting tool. It actually is a sales enablement tool that has different ways to actually approach what you're talking about and educate your sales team without you as the sales manager having to spend all your hours coaching them through, here's what we're trying to accomplish. So I like that question because it really is in the essence of what we're trying to accomplish, to give the sales manager a break, give them some relief, and let them do more of the things that the company needs them to accomplish rather than babysitting their sales team.
Follow up with that, Phil. How do you see the sales and marketing strategies change over future years? What do you see that's new frontiers or new opportunities or new low-hanging fruit, should I say?
Yeah, well, the adoption of AI is the first point. I mean, if Salesforce says that the adoption of AI in sales team is going to grow 139% adoption, if I was a sales leader, I would want to know and understand that. What do you mean by that? And how can I be a part of that? The next thing is that you're going to have to, from a marketing perspective, figure out how your strategy is to nudge people to buy your product. Not only nudging your sales team to be successful, you're going to have to brand yourself in a way where people want to be a part of it. And that's more than ever. And the reason why is everybody's digital right now. Everybody, we're on a digital call right now. We're not in person. The whole sales strategy and marketing strategy has completely changed. It's
Yes.
the landmark.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue to be accepted by us because now we're used to it. We don't have, I didn't have to drive to Fayetteville today to do this. This is something that everybody is getting used to and trying to figure out. So being in front of AI, tools that can help you from a marketing and sales perspective are key. And then learning what are the nudging points of our product. How can we get people to just recognize us and click on something to be a part of it? Those are the companies that are going to be the most successful. And I certainly believe that that's where I would have as a sales leader thinking about those things from a sales and marketing perspective.
Thanks, Phil. It's great.
Good questions. Thank you. And as a follow-up to this, I'll share my contact information. If anybody wants to reach out to me to have a conversation or further conversation about your organization, let me see if I can drop it in the comments, the chats. I'll just type it right now. Anybody can call me. And then I'll put my email for everyone as well. I look forward to seeing if I can help your company or you in any way possible.
Thank you so much, Phil. I have a question. I mean, do you envision SmartFox being able to accommodate a smaller business? So, you know, those with 20 or 40 employees versus 100 or more?
I think once we get to the point where we're really out there and people are using our product, the smaller companies will feel pressure to use it as well. They'll want to be a part of it, and especially the people who are trying to figure out what their ideal sales process is. So those companies are the companies that are startups that have 20 employees, and they're trying to figure this out. How are we going to make this company grow, and how are we going to get our investor to invest more money? And how are we going to forecast the future of our company? Well, it'd be great to use our product to do that because it's going to help bring some credibility to your forecast. I mean, it was so easy for me to go to my leadership team and say, these people have accomplished X amount of milestones in each stage of this or wherever they were. And I can certainly say they're at 30% if they've finished everything that we've asked them to accomplish in that stage. And if that's the top end, then that made me look good because they knew that they had accomplished that. So I feel like these companies will gravitate to that over the next period of time as we grow. So we're not trying to not doubt the small guy. Salesforce is very expensive too. That's a problem we have. Salesforce is probably one of the most expensive CRMs out there. They have a small package for the small guy, trying to get them in. But I always tell people like, well, where should we invest in our CRM? Like, they're like, we're on HubSpot or we're on Zoho right now. And I'm saying, if you want investors involved and you're going down that route where you want to have some credibility, at some point you're going to have to invest in a strong CRM system, because they're going to look at that as a part of their investment. They want to make sure that you're not using some simple tool. So that is a big piece of evolving as a company. As you grow, you're going to have to make some decisions on investing in a CRM. And that brings my big thing to speaking to people is the 3 things to success that brings results. Structure, which is your CRM system, and what your team and how you build it. Accountability, making sure everybody agrees to what the company's asked them to accomplish and everybody is going to do that. And then accuracy. If everybody's completing what the company's asked them to do, then we know we can bring good results. So those are things that I live by and I believe in, but those small guys are going to go through that evolution, the 20 employees, to be able to get to that point where they're going to start to have to invest in a stronger CRM system. And that's where we kind of start to get in play. Great question.
I'm curious, when you go to try to get a new client, what do you find is your biggest hurdle or obstacle in their thinking, or what you have to convince them or show them?
Change. Change is the biggest thing in any organization. Organizations don't like change, nor do sales reps, especially. That's the biggest hurdle. But once you can show them, in our situation, we allow our customers to download our product into their development environment for free and set it up, try it. But what's great about what we're able to do is that if we can show them that we've removed subjectivity from their pipeline, then their forecasts go, they on average, it's like 30% improvement from initial just getting people to fix what they currently have. We're not even talking about future data. We're just talking about showing them how we just corrected 30% percentage of success for them, and letting them see that in that data. It brings a whole new light to, like, it's just an amazing thing to see that. And then they believe, they start to say, this change isn't going to be bad, because we're going to sell it as we're reducing the amount of work that you have to do. And all we're asking you to do is now weigh in. You don't have to guess anymore. And when sales reps hear that, they're like, I'm in. That you just reduced my workload by this. So it's a tough thing to get through change, but I think that's when every organization, no matter what product platform they use, it's just a part of it. But if you can get everybody to buy in on it and see how it's going to help the company be successful, then you've won. And that starts by laying the right expectations in the beginning, and then holding people accountable to using the platform. So change would be the biggest hurdle, I think, that I see in any organization.
So how do you handle those customers, those clients, where they've been overinflating their sales figures significantly, and now with your new software, it shows a more realistic look, but it's significantly lower sales? How do you convince them to stay with your product?
So no one likes to see that, right? They want to see the opposite. And what we say is, like, the truth hurts, right? Why not correct it now? And then in the future, you're going to be successful, because now from this day forward, you have an accurate view of what's going to happen. And you can learn from that, and you can make those changes. And now you can go to your board with confidence, true confidence. Like, I know it because I can repeat success, and we know we've been accomplishing things doing it this way. So now we can repeat it. So getting through that with them and letting them have that moment of, man, this is a bummer. Then it almost turns around. Thank you for helping us realize what issues we had as an organization. And now we're on the right path to correcting everything, to making it right, to future, to success. And that's what is the big moment, aha moment for anybody when they failed and they're failing and they're not doing things right. They've got to man up or woman up and say, hey, it's time to make changes. And that all comes from the leadership team and the executives that are involved in that.
Thanks for sharing, Mr. Phil. Ms. Burns, that was a really good question. I can remember one of my dear friends, close friend, when their company adopted Salesforce, it was one of the issues that they had. They said it leveled the playing field, and they didn't like it. Some of the top salespeople said, well, it's going to level the playing field. It's going to, expose certain things, and they really didn't want to accept that change. So, but like, Mr. Phil said, over time, they say, oh, well, we see others are increasing sales. So, it's a good thing. Change is hard, but I think that, like my friend, it's going to be difficult until it's not difficult. So I think that's a great thing. But what I really wanted to say was that concerning the just adapting Salesforce and other software into the colleges and exposing students, I think that's huge. I think that's going to be a big market because of AI and where it's going. We see in the news that China is, stealing data and this and that. There's something huge coming, and no one knows what it is. But I'm almost certain that AI is going to drive a lot of the business, activity, because like the Hawthorne effect. If you give, exposure to salespeople about what's going on in the company and make it, make that information more available to them, they're going to act differently. And controlling their behavior is what we really want to see, because if I can increase sales, or show you, how to increase sales or what's going on, then it causes me to act a little differently, especially from a managerial stance. So, anyway, I just really appreciate, you being here. And I'm looking forward to seeing, platforms like Salesforce enter into the college arena, because our students are really going to need to know about this stuff. Thanks a lot.
Oh, Corey, that was great feedback. We believe the same thing. One big moment for us was the Dennis Quaid Viewpoint show reached out to us because of, I guess, some of the awards we won. And so it's a educational show that's like a public broadcast show that's a podcast, and it's put across the United States. And my leadership team, and talking to them, I said, I really want to focus this show, because it's all about education, it's not about sales, on how universities are adopting AI and how they're teaching their students to be successful in the future using tools that they know they're going to have to use. They're going to have to use them, no doubt. How to use a CRM system. If they're in that technical degree or in business sales degree or whatever, they're going to have to be prepared to do that. And the time is now to teach them. So I certainly would love to talk to any university that's considering that, and donate our product, whatever we need to do to get these students prepared, because it's such a great thing for us. I mean, it's so huge. If an employer says, what have you learned in college? Well, I've learned how to use Salesforce CRM. I learned how to use SmartFox Technologies. Well, tell me about SmartFox Technologies. So it's just a win-win for everybody. So I'm glad you believe in that, Corey, because that is certainly something that we're promoting, and we're going to promote in this show that's going to come out next year sometime and across the United States. And we just hope that other universities, like the 12 that we're implementing ours in, it's going to be a huge adoption, because I think it's a great thing, not only for Salesforce, but for us. So good comment.
Thank you, sir. I'm looking forward to
it. Phil, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit.
All right.
I've got a background in executive marketing, and I remember when computers for small business come out, and I'm following kind of up on what Lori was asking about, is to how effective this is for small businesses. And it's been my experience. First of all, I agree with you. I think sales predictions made by Salesforce is generally flawed in many ways, mostly because salespeople are optimists, and we also set our goals high, and generally too high. Somebody that sells 16 units a month says they're going to sell 43 next month.
That's right.
You know where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
But as a small business, we're influenced by so many different things, such as the obvious stuff like company history or industry trends that we see. But I think even more so things like weather, with regard to how much advertising promotion we put into things. Also, probably the biggest thing is the economy itself. And my experience over the many years that I've been in business is that economic trends are your biggest indicator as to how well you're going to do from month to month in the small business. There's more consistency in large businesses, and there's more consistency over time. So I'm kind of skeptical about how accurate your system is going to be with regard to small business, particularly that you're crossing so many different industries that are affected in so many different ways. The second thing, and I'll let you address anything you want, but I started with CRMs before CRMs existed. You know, the old green screens. I created my own CRMs back then. So, and I had vast experience with CRMs in the 90s and early 2000s, to where it was taking so much of the salesperson's time that they didn't have time to sell. And that was an issue. I don't know how much has changed since then, and I'm kind of curious as to what your response on any of this is.
Yeah, those are all valid points. You know, the one thing that we went in building this system is that we had to make sure that there was control over it. Like, you as a sales leader had to be the one that could make changes on the front end based off of all the factors that you're saying to give your chance to have success in your forecast. So that's where you as a leader have to control the front end of our product. If you're using it, you have to be able to give yourself judgment on what you're seeing out there and what you've seen in the past that's made you successful, and make those adjustments. Give yourself a chance to be successful. Maybe the probability shouldn't be 20%, it should be 10% in this category. So that's where you've got to be the one who steps in and actually controls that. That's the problem, the issue that Salesforce hasn't fixed, right? They don't know how to control that or fix that. What they've done is just allowed this, just let them figure it out. And the reason why is they don't want to be responsible for somebody's number at the end of the day. They don't want to take ownership or have you call them and say, hey, what you did or the calculation you made did not help us. So you're so right with that. The second point to that that I'd like to bring out is we knew going in this is that we have to make something that's so simple, so easy to use, that takes up a few minutes of the sales rep's time. Like, how are we going to accomplish that? Because they don't want to use technology that's out there right now. They don't want to come at the end of the day and enter this data that we're asking, their activities, tasks, all this stuff, this buttons here and there and everywhere. Let's just make it simple. It's as simple as possible. And so we feel like we've created that tool that allows sales rep just to dedicate a small amount of their time to accomplish what the company needs them to accomplish. So that's how we're addressing the 2 points that you brought up. Obviously, our target market is the larger customer. You're right. But I think that addresses what you're talking about, is just making sure you're the one who makes those decisions as a sales leader. And then the second piece is making a tool very easy to use and socially recognized by the whole team. Everybody sees what the other person's doing and how well they're doing. And that's just part of what the company, we are able to provide a company.
Well, I agree with you. I think the CRMs are extremely important. I couldn't put enough emphasis on them, but when I see my salespeople sitting around for 3 hours playing on their computer before they make their first sales call, that's just bad news all the way around. So, and I kind of understand where you're going with regard to helping. I would assume that there's a great deal of management or assistance on your end in putting together this algorithm that creates this predictor. I mean, is it different for everybody?
Oh yeah, so the way it works is like, so you would go in the admin side of our product, and let's say you bring over your sales stages from Salesforce, because it's completely integrated. So you see what this sales process is for your product, for your whatever product you're selling, and then you go in each stage and say, there's only 3 choices that you can choose. If someone's done less than 50%, less than 50% of what we've asked them to do in this stage, then what probability should this be? And then you would start at the bottom end, like let's say if it was 10 to 30% in this stage, at the very beginning, you could select 12% or 10% or whatever you want. Then as the person completes 50% of what we've asked them to do, then we put another higher calculation in. And then if the person completed everything that we asked them to do, then we put whatever other percentage in. So that's where the gravy is that you control that. You can adjust that every day if you wanted to, based off of what you're learning from your AI and the output and the economics of everything. So that's where we allow you the ability to make those simple choices in each stage. So it's not rocket science how it's done. It just calculates based off of that configuration.
And I can understand that using probability as and percentages as guidelines to help set that up. But it's just nice to know that I would assume that it's very much hands-on with you guys with regard to getting that set up and everything.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right.
And we provide a complete client portal, tutorials, and everything that people can go to, and it's literally something that's not hard to do and set up. So it's like, once you get it, you got it. It's something, it doesn't require us to be on site involved. Whatever people need, we provide, and it's just a part of the process of getting it set up. But once it's set up, it really gets exciting because you start to see who's doing their work and who's not, and who's really your top salespeople and who's not. So it's pretty cool. Thank you for the questions.
So Phil, I want to piggyback on Ken and Lori with the small business owner. Are you doing anything to try to entice them to try your product? Because for a company the size of the IBMs, that's going to be a drop in the bucket for what you're asking them to pay and do. But for the small business owner or the startup, it could be a matter of, do I eat this month or not? Do I make my payroll this month or not? So are you offering any incentives or any little enticements to the smaller business person to give you a try, or come see what we offer, or something of that nature to kind of hook them?
Certainly. Every month and several times a month, we put promo codes on all our social media, our website, to entice people to be able to use our product at heavily discounted. This month we have a Labor Day one that allows a company to get 50% off license fees for entire year. So we throw that out there, and what we'll say is the first 10 customers that do it, we're offering this to help you out. So that's how we're trying to promote the product and get people to try our product at a heavily discounted rate for a full year. They would have that opportunity for a full year. So we've gone as high as 75% off, and we've gone as low as 10% off. But that's a part of the whole behavior economics and nudging people to try our product by giving them those opportunities. So that's how we're addressing some of the smaller and giving people a chance to try our product at a heavily discounted rate, which Salesforce allows us to do.
Do we have any more questions for Phil? If not, Phil, I'm going to take the last question.
All right.
How can we help? What can this community do to help you?
Just my ask today would be for you to, if you know anybody that's using Salesforce, and you yourself is using Salesforce, if you're struggling with that and that we can assist somebody, I love the opportunity to speak to them and try to see what we can do or not do for them to help them, or even just to give them advice. That's the key. We are a North Carolina-based organization where we support the North Carolina Technology Association. So we're really trying to grow our product in the eastern part of North Carolina with some of the people we meet, like you guys, that are our core kind of home customers. So I'm talking to people across the world right now, and it is nuts. And I certainly appreciate the local side of things that bring me home back to North Carolina, where I really would love to help the Fayetteville community with those many customers that use Salesforce in your city. So the last piece would be university side. I mean, if there's an opportunity where you would like to try to get Salesforce into your technical programs, or of universities in North Carolina or around the United States that have similar degrees that may be a good fit, I would love to introduce you to Professor Eric Lean. He's the one who's pushing the project in the Milwaukee area, and just talk to him and have a conversation about what they're trying to accomplish. So that is a second goal. And certainly I know Fayetteville Tech's on the phone, but if you have any interest there, I would love to tell you more about what we're doing and kind of what the global plan would be for these educational institutes to help these students get better prepared. So those are my two big asks.
Well, thank you so much, Phil. I do think SmartFox would be very advantageous, especially to students. Maybe you could contact the Dean, Cindy Burns, also a 1 Million Cups organizer, and maybe you guys could have a conversation about if there was a way that we could use your technology to assist our students in the workforce tomorrow. Again, thanks for a fantastic presentation. It was a pleasure having you. I would love to invite you to come back, be a part of our audience, come back in the future and tell us how things are going with SmartFox. Everybody else, I hope to see you guys back next week. We have a great presenter. We have guest chat that will come and talk with us next Wednesday. So you guys go out, have a great Wednesday. Hopefully we'll stay dry. I think we're expecting some rain here. So nonetheless, have a great Wednesday and see you next week. Bye, Phil. Thanks so much.
Anytime.
Be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.